All right, today we're diving into a real giant of English literature. I'm talking about Samuel Richardson's Clarissa. Now, this isn't just any old book. It's one of the longest, most emotional, and honestly most influential novels ever written. It really stretched what people thought a novel could even be, and you can still see its fingerprints on stories today.
So, that quote you just saw, true virtue lies in staying strong even in difficult situations. I mean, wow. That right there isn't just a theme in the book, it's the absolute soul of our heroine, Clarissa. It's the one thing she holds on to through things you can barely imagine. And that's what makes her story so incredibly powerful and, yeah, so heartbreaking. So let's really hang on to that idea as we get started.
Okay, so here's our game plan for unpacking this massive story. First up, we'll look at the impossible choice Clarissa has to make. Then we'll meet let's call him a predator in disguise. After that, we'll see how her virtue leads to a devastating tragedy, and then get into the real heart of it, the battle for her soul. And we'll wrap up by looking at why on earth this book has had such a lasting impact.
All right, Section 1, a heroine's impossible choice. We're talking virtue, family, and the fight for freedom. And really, this whole thing kicks off with a conflict that, even though it's set centuries ago, feels incredibly modern. It's all about one young woman's fight for her own life against what her family demands. So let's meet Clarissa Harlow. And you've got to understand, she's not your average protagonist. She is smart, she is principled, she is just profoundly good. But here's the problem. Her family? They're all about money and social status. They're obsessed with climbing the social ladder. So you can already see where this is going, right? A huge, devastating collision is just waiting to happen. And this is the heart of her impossible choice. On one side, you've got her family's demand, marry this guy, Mr. Solms. He's super rich, but he's also, well, gross. They want her to do it just to make the family look good. But on the other side, you have Clarissa's belief. And for her time, this was totally radical. She thinks you should actually like the person you marry, that it should be about more than just a business deal. So when she says no, her family completely loses it. They see it as this huge act of defiance, and they basically lock her up in her own home. So what do you do when you're trapped? You look for a way out, and that's exactly what Clarissa does. But this is where the story takes a really dark turn. The escape she finds doesn't lead to freedom. It leads her right into a different kind of cage. A much, much more dangerous one. And that's when Robert Lovelace steps onto the scene. You have to picture this guy. He's the total opposite of Mr. Solms. He's charming, he's clever, and he seems to really understand what she's going through. He looks like the perfect savior. And because she's so desperate, she puts all her trust in him to help her get away. And this is the mistake that will cost her everything. Lovelace's plan is it's pure calculated cruelty. It's a trap, and it unfolds in 3 stages. First, you have the rescue, right? He swoops in, promising her freedom, promising to protect her. He's the knight in shining armor. Then, step 2, isolation. He methodically cuts her off from everyone she knows. No friends, no family, no one to turn to. And it all builds to step 3, the betrayal. This is where he finally shows his true colors, revealing that he never cared about her freedom. All he ever wanted was to break her. Okay, we're now at the absolute heart of darkness in this novel. This is the moment everything has been building towards. It's the point of no return, where Lovelace's twisted obsession results in something truly unforgivable. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. The central tragic event of this book is brutal. Lovelace becomes so enraged that he can't bend her to his will, that he can't make her love him, so he assaults her. And you have to understand, in the 18th century, this was more than a physical violation. It completely destroyed her honor, her reputation, her entire place in society. In the eyes of everyone, she was quite simply ruined. But, and this is so important, this is exactly where the story shifts. It stops being just a tragedy of what was done to her body and becomes this incredible story of the triumphs of her soul. Yeah, her reputation is destroyed. Her social life is over. But her moral core, her integrity, that remains completely unbroken. He could ruin her name, but he could never, ever break her spirit. So the fight isn't about escaping a house anymore. It's now a battle for her very soul. The whole story shifts from a physical struggle to a spiritual one. And it asks this really deep question. Can you find a kind of victory, a moral victory, even when you've lost everything else? And this leads to the final showdown. but it's not a fight with swords or anything. It's a battle of wills. Lovelace actually offers to marry her, and in the eyes of their society, that would fix everything. It would make an honest woman of her and restore her social standing. But Clarissa's response? An absolute, unwavering no. Because for her, marrying the man who destroyed her would be the real defeat. It would be a betrayal of her own soul, and that's a price she is just not willing to pay.
So, what's really going on here thematically? I mean, what is Richardson trying to say? Well, first, it's this epic struggle between pure virtue, that's Clarissa, and total vice, that's Lovelace. It's also a blistering critique of a society where women had basically no power, where they were treated like property. And finally, it's a huge warning about pride and how destructive it can be, not just Lovelace's pride, but Clarissa's family's pride too.
So you might be thinking, okay, this book is from the 1700s. Why are we still talking about it? Why does it still matter? Well, let's get into its absolutely unforgettable literary legacy. First off, you need to know how the story is told. It's what's called an epistolary novel, which is just a fancy way of saying the whole thing is told through letters between the characters. And this format is absolute genius. It's like you're reading their diaries or their private messages. You get to live inside their heads. You don't just watch what happens, you feel their hopes, their fears, their twisted justifications, all in real time. It creates a psychological depth that was just unheard of.
And that's just one reason this book endures. The writing is just so raw and emotional, it completely sucks you in. The psychological exploration is, it's one of the deepest you'll ever find. And then you have the characters themselves. Clarissa is one of literature's greatest heroines, admired for that unbreakable courage. And Lovelace? He's one of the all-time great villains, not just evil, but charming, complex, and absolutely compelling.
Okay, let's just address the elephant in the room. This book is long. Famously, epically long. We're talking over 1,000,000 words. So for a modern reader, yeah, the pacing can feel really slow. It can be a serious challenge to get through. But I'll tell you what, if you stick with it, the emotional payoff at the end is just immense. So how does it all end? Well, Clarissa's body just gives out. Worn down by all the suffering, she passes away. But Richardson presents her death not as a defeat, but as a victory. It's a peaceful, triumphant release. In death, she finally escapes Lovelace, she escapes her family, and most importantly, her soul is saved. It's the final, ultimate win for her virtue. And all of that leaves us with this one huge, haunting question that the book forces you to confront. Clarissa literally chose her principles over her life, over her reputation, over any possibility of earthly happiness. So the question for us is it worth it? Is maintaining your virtue worth paying the ultimate price?